Thank you all for tuning in to yet another edition of the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz, which I can't just name it after myself anymore because this is the third episode in a row with one Scott Waldman. And I'm also joined by one of my longest tenured friends. I'm going to say tenured, Brian Weinstein. They have not met before, so you're meeting Brian for the first time. You're seeing Scott yet again, and thank you both for joining me.
My pleasure.
My show and my company both have Waldman in it, so I say own Paltrowitz, man. That's you. I don't need to be in the title of your show. I'm just a featured guest.
Well, Scott is famously the host of Waldman's Words, and I say famously because, you know, he's a thousandaire with no. We're not metrics here. Waldman's Words is heard on is it the Adobe Radio Network?
Yeah, it's Adobe Radio every Tuesday at 5 o'clock Pacific time, which is my time zone. And for you three, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then the following day it gets uploaded as a podcast on all the DSPs.
For most people, that would be enough. However, in Scott's case, he manages 1 trillion bands and songwriters and producers through Waldman Management. Is it Waldman Artist Management or just Waldman Management?
You had it right. It's Waldman Management. I mean, if someone wants to put an A in between the M and have me be a wham, I'm not upset.
Words and music, wham.
Yeah, sure.
And that's not enough because he is also the source of the band Lido Beach. And we also regularly read his writing in Alternative Press, which is one of the magazines if you like punk rock and alternative music. So Scott, you thankfully made some time to do this. Now, Brian, on the other hand, besides educating the masses, he is the host of Attendance Bias, which #1 Phish podcast in the world. Am I right?
I don't think there's anything else that could even come close, or that anyone who can maintain an argument about that. Yes, I have the greatest #1 Phish podcast that's ever been recorded.
And you've had some great guests on there over the past few months. Can you name check a few of them for those who are unfortunately unaware and deprived?
Yeah, all sarcasm aside, I really have had a lot of great guests. My first guest was Elisa Alashant, who is a DJ on the Phish channel on Sirius XM. I've had Steve Lacey, who is the lead anchor on Fox 5 News at 10, Fox 5 News at 5 and 10. Mm-hmm. If you're in the New York area. Mm-hmm. I've also had just everyday fans who are just eager to talk about the band. And I have a few more upcoming, but I'm not going to spoil them. It's going to be more of a surprise. Although there is one guy next week who is known from his Twitter handle at Weekend Wook. So he's a regular guy during the week, but when it comes to the weekend, watch out for that Wook.
Wow.
Stay home, guys.
Stay home. The Weekend Wook is out.
Well, both of you who I mentioned are people I've known for a long time who haven't met. You two have a lot in common. And rather than going into those thousands of things that you have in common, I'm going to point out you're both working within the music field with Nassau County roots to you. And you've both also seen shows at Westbury Music Fair on Long Island. And I'm getting nods for that. You've both seen shows there. Scott, I'm getting the one as in you've seen one show.
Yeah, not hold on, one.
Which show was it that you saw in Westbury?
Hi, Bob. I saw George Carlin perform a set. So I think that my one is a pretty one and done. You know, it's a good one to end on. And I'll tell you this, he was making fun of weak first names, and I was on a date and he said 1-syllable names like Todd, Scott, and I'm like, really, dude? Really? Like, you're gonna make fun of my name? I'm trying to impress this girl. It's bad enough I'm named after a country that I have no allegiance to. Why are you doing this?
Wasn't Kyle another name on that list from George?
Probably. It was like because I know that he did that routine later, and he might have nixed Scott from it, but I mean, I'm not going to deny it. My name isn't exactly Captain Strength like Maximus.
Or Darren.
I have the middle name Scott. Brian has a brother named Scott. So I think there's a lot of us who outnumber Mr. Carlin and his estate. So,
suck it, George Carlin.
But
let him know when you can, if you talk to him.
I did interview him in 2001. I'm trying to find the tape of that, actually.
Oh, that's one of those taped interviews. Was it on 8-track?
It is it's like one of these little mini tapes that I have to digitize. So you have to buy a recorder to be able to play these non-existent formatted tapes. And I had to buy 3 of them that didn't work to finally get the 4th that did work.
Was he press friendly? Was he like a chill dude? Because I hear that, you know, with certain comedians of that stature, it's either hit or huge miss.
I was 18 or 19. And my interviewing skills, I'm not going to say they're excellent now, as evidenced by this conversation and this flow right here. But I was not a very good interviewer the first 10 years I did it. And unfortunately, that was in the first 10 years. Right now, you put me with a comedian, I can speak to them even if they're not being friendly. I'm sure my questions were scripted then, and it did not go so great. I remember him being like, to at least a few questions.
He was like that with everyone ever about anything. So don't take it personally.
Yeah. Don Rickles was like that, but that's the character. But then he opened up and he got nice. I don't want to say I'm the comedian whisperer or anything like that. But that interview was actually to promote his gig at Westbury Music Fair. So that's
the one that I believe I went to it. It was definitely when I was in college coming home from break. So it was probably that year. It was either 2000 or 2001.
If it was 01, that was the one. And the name of the show, he had to change the name of it because of September 11th.
Wow. Well, I don't know if it was that, because I feel like I saw him over the summer. So if that was that would be in 2002. But what was the name? Like, was it kind of like a Bleed American type situation?
Worse.
George Carlin bombs over America.
It's not me. It's the Carlin estate. They have to speak to this one. The name of the show was I Kind of Like It When a Lot of People Die.
Okay.
I could see how that would need to be changed.
Yeah. Something's doing age the best.
Timing is everything, right?
But on a brighter note, Brian actually worked backstage. Was it a summer or was it a year on and off?
No, it was a summer. It was during my college years. I don't remember the exact year. I would guess around 2003. The summer of 2003 sounds about right. Or yes. 2002. I worked backstage pretty much as a gopher. I was a runner. So any sort of odds and ends that needed to be done for the artist, I was the go-to guy. So it was anything from unloading or loading up a truck and bringing the equipment on rollers right up to the stage. I was not allowed to step on the stage because that was union.
Yes.
So there was literally a line on the stage that I had to stop when I was bringing the band's equipment out onto and leave it literally on an X, because I couldn't touch it if it was near or on the stage. I could not set foot. But it was mostly stuff like set up a dressing room. There was one time where Willie Nelson was playing and his manager or his road manager probably told me I had to go out and go get a guitar stand for Willie Nelson. And he literally gave me a $20 bill and he said, get the cheapest one you could find. I want change. So there was a Sam Goody, a Sam Ash close by, or a Guitar Center.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, I literally need a guitar stand for Willie Nelson. And I found one that was like $7.99. And I brought it up and they're like, you sure this is for Willie Nelson? I said, yeah. He goes, don't get him that one. Here, get him this one. And it was like $12.99. It was like the second cheapest one. So I brought back change with a receipt. The guy wanted a receipt too. So it was little things like that. One time I had to make sure that there was a working video game console in the back for Huey Lewis and the News. So we had a Super Nintendo that we plugged in for them. They were very happy with that.
In 2003, a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, that's what we had backstage.
I was going to say the power of glove, but that joke,
You should have got the job.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I was busy that day.
I got promoted one night to security from a backstage runner. I got to be security. I had to get a suit and I stood right next to the stage for the B-52s.
And you couldn't go on stage though if
I
someone
could not go on
yeah.
stage. I had to go next to the stage. I just stand there with my 5'8" intimidating frame.
Well, I'm 5'9", so I got you. But I just want to say one quick thing based on you brought up Sam Ash and Guitar Center. Sam Ash was there a long time. Guitar Center came there later. But in 1998, another show I saw at Westbury was Scofflaws and Real Big Fish in the Sam Ash parking lot in Westbury.
Cool.
I was at that too. It was in a tent in back of that Sam Ash.
Yep.
Oh,
that was a rock show I saw in Westbury, and then George Carlin when he made fun of my name. So I like the Real Big Fish Scofflaws one more.
Yeah, one of the reasons we're doing this series here is to document venues that have come and gone. And you could say, well, Westbury Music Fair is still there. Not technically true because it's the theater at Westbury and they redid it. The guts of the building are the same, but the sound is different. The stage is still there, but everything is totally different and all that. So
well, Irving Plaza did that too, right? Didn't they call it the Fillmore? I left New York a long time ago. So is it like the Fillmore at Irving now, or is Fillmore dead?
It went to the Fillmore and then it changed back in some form. And I don't know if they did the naming sponsor kind of thing. It's possible that they did. Westbury has changed its name a lot of times. The NYCB Theater was one of them.
Is that still what it is? I think that's the present name, or am I wrong?
Last time I checked, it was just theater at Westbury.
That's the worst. That's the worst.
They were between.
It's not as bad as the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
That's true.
That's
pretty bad. That's pretty backwards.
The New York Giants of Jersey, like it's really stupid.
Well, Westbury's not there as we knew it per se, but before COVID happened, I'm gonna say that if you look at the 2020 summer concert lineup, may not be that different from the 2003 summer concert lineup. It's a lot of the same artists, and that is one of my favorite things about Westbury. You go, I missed him this year. I'll see him next year.
It's like Beach Boys at oh, sorry, you go.
I was going to ask if Steve and Edie are still playing, or Dion is still going to be there. Is it that, or Tommy James, maybe with or without the Shondells?
Okay. Steve and Edie, I think, unfortunately, are in the ground.
Okay.
Too soon.
Yeah. Dion, I believe, yes, was scheduled.
Not surprised.
Tommy James, yes, was scheduled.
This is not number one. This is Can I Speak?
Please do.
Okay.
Does this have to
do Jones Beach? Jones Beach would do like every summer you knew the Allman Brothers would play there. Every summer you knew the Beach Boys would play there. Every summer there'd be some kind of co-headliner with like a Pat Benatar. And then they would have, stuff that you wouldn't expect to come in. But no, Jones Beach was like that. But Westbury Music Fair, what's the capacity? Like 2,000?
It was, let me see if I can remember. It was like 2,770 or something like that.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And here is the funny thing with what I just said and what you just said. The middle ground is then there was a short list of artists who did Jones Beach in the summer and then Westbury in the winter every year.
Who would be able to fill those? Because Jones Beach is gigantic. Jones Beach is what, like 14,000?
It'd be Allman Brothers without the band.
Just the two brothers.
At Westbury, and then they went to Jones Beach and they did the whole thing.
I think it was the kind of thing that these artists were only playing Jones Beach because there was a co-headliner and maybe it was a special package and they were okay with it being a little empty-ish. Like, for example, many summers, Beach Boys, July or August at Jones Beach, and then December they do the Christmassy thing at Westbury. Mm-hmm. Chicago is another one too, where I guess it'd be Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire, Chicago and REO Speedwagon, and then they just do Westbury for Christmas.
What's the name of the venue in New York City? Because I've only been the Beacon. I saw the Beach Boys there once too, and it's very Beach Boys I think they just trademarked their name, right?
And probably the Allman Brothers. You probably saw at the Beacon also because they only played there like 90,000 times.
They did, but
that's not that many.
We're going to pause that thought for a second and say, welcome to Neil.
Neil. Wow. Hey. Neil, are you in like the Dominican Republic?
I was late. I got stuck on a call that went a lot longer than I thought. It
looks like you're outside.
No, I'm actually just in my bedroom, but looks like, yeah, it's kind of like the sun there. But
Well,
how you doing, guys?
Doing
We're
great.
doing
Thanks,
good.
Neil.
But are you good?
I'm good. Yes.
So
What did I miss?
Well, here's
Enthralling dialogue.
Yeah, we were just about
Enthralling.
wrapping it up right now.
Okay. Of course.
so Neil, how many concerts have you been to at Westbury Music Fair? Did I remember correctly? It's 2?
I think it's 2, but I can only really remember 1.
Okay.
And do you want to know what it was?
We're dying.
Oh man. It was Queensryche.
Awesome. That might be George Carlin, Adam.
Yeah, mine is George Carlin. So yours is definitely louder.
Yeah. A funny story. So, obviously I'm a drummer, and Scott Rockenfield, who's the drummer for Queensryche.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to when I was in the band last week and I was recording one of our albums, our producer at the time had bought an old drum kit from Scott Rockenfield. And so I was like, he's like, oh, you're about to record on Scott Rockenfield's drums. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I think a year or 2 later, I ended up seeing Queensryche, and it was cool to see him at Westbury because, as the stage rotated, I love seeing a drummer from like behind, just to see everything that they're doing and all like the nerdy percussive hits that he's doing and watching his foot on the kick drum and all that stuff. So, I loved it. It was great. I mean, I wish I could have seen more shows there, which never really turned out that way, but.
Was that Queensryche with Jeff Tate, or is it the post-Tate era Queensryche?
There are only 2 types of Queensryche.
There's only 2 kinds of Queensryche.
That was, oh man, this was a while ago. I think it was Jeff Tate.
Cool. And the other show you don't really remember there?
I can't remember. I know I'm pretty sure I was there before, but it really escapes me.
Beach Boys?
Wish.
Stephen Eady, Tommy James, Dion.
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles.
Oh God.
But that's the thing about Westbury Music Fair that I loved, because my great grandmother could be there one night for Stephen Eady, and then Neil could be there the next night for Queensryche. They really just packed in whoever would attract people. It was a really fun place to see a show. There's not a bad seat anywhere in the house. When you look at the seating chart, I remember when I would buy tickets at the box office, it's a circuit, it's in the round. So you would, even if they had the last row, you were still no more than like 25 feet from the stage.
You sound like you should have done marketing for them. That was like a really good ad.
I don't think they pay that much because the tickets were never that expensive. I have a really soft spot for Westbury Music Fair. I saw dozens of shows there. I remember seeing Weird Al when I was probably 10 or 11 years old with my cousin, and just being blown away. And Darren, you were at that show too, right?
Yeah, that was when I was in 8th grade. So
yeah,
96 or something like that.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pre facelift, or I'm sorry, pre image shift.
Too soon.
Weird Al.
It was back when he was still weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Westbury, and what Neil said about it, where he was watching the kick drum of Scott Rockenfield, where you're close enough to see that. I love how close you are to the artist, and sometimes you see a lot of things you're not supposed to see. But this has to be, to me, my overall observation is it is the best place as a fan because you can sit down, you don't have to stand, you can just totally be lazy. But it's probably the worst place to work as a tour manager or a tech, because every rule of thing that's in your contract is probably not honored. So for example, when I saw Cheap Trick there, this was a month before COVID hit, Rick Nielsen's guitar tech was sitting in the front row. That way he would be closer to the guitars there than he would, because there's no side of the stage.
Right. Yeah, and from a load in and load out standpoint, it was easy to load in because all of the aisles lead obviously directly to the stage.
Right.
But you got to see the backs of all the amps.
Yeah.
So from a production standpoint, that's not ideal, like you said, for any production manager or road manager, because there is no easy access to the stage during the show. So
Yeah.
if something went wrong, too bad. Although not everyone had the rotating stage. Some acts wanted it to be stationary. For example, when I saw Gallagher there,
Wait.
I feel like he played Westbury every summer.
probably, or his evil twin brother.
Oh yeah, that's quite a conspiracy story.
Yeah.
That's
But
true.
yeah.
No. I mean, yeah, he took the name.
But I'll never forget that load in, because we were literally loading in watermelons. I'm not kidding. Watermelons, old PCs, pretty much anything that he was going to smash. That was his whole stage setup. It was a sledgehammer, a little table, and dozens of smashable items.
Wait, has Carrot Top played there?
Yes, he has.
Many times.
Yeah.
Makes sense. He's kind of the newer Gallagher. It's weird to say the word newer and Carrot Top in the same sentence, but I feel like he was like a more modern. But until you've played the Trocadero in Philadelphia, never complain about load-in ever again. He's laughing because he knows. It's basically there's no elevator, and I had an 8x10 Ampeg bass amp to lift up flights of stairs, and I'm not a big guy. Anyway, back to Long Island.
You're 5'9", you're bigger than me.
That's true. So that 1 inch got me one happier point.
Yes. So with that weird accessibility to the stage thing, one of the last shows I saw before COVID, it was kind of like an all-star Beatles thing that had Todd Rundgren and Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees and Jason Sheff from Chicago. And I watched Todd Rundgren literally.
I was with you.
Were you at? That was a different show.
Okay.
Sorry to correct you in public. I know improv is yes and kind of scenarios, like yes and you also that, but I actually watched Todd Rundgren slip and fall horribly.
Oh no.
Between songs, and then you saw Mickey Dolenz kind of like limping on and off the stage. And the weird part is, since so many of the artists that play there are older, you would think that they'd have a solution all these years later as to how to get the people on and off. Like I remember one time I saw Don Rickles and he had to go down the ramp, like the how do you call it? Like a slope, a slanted.
Yeah, I think a ramp is correct.
Aisle. And you're like,
you probably offended someone. Ugh.
It's a horizontally.
It's Rickles accessible.
Well, they need to hire like a hip specialist on call.
Well, the thing is, as
there.
an artist, I can imagine you don't know which angle to leave, because it rotates and there's only 2 aisles that go directly to the stage, but there's like 7 aisles in the round.
Yeah.
So if you're moving around, you don't know where to exit the stage because you're probably disoriented by the time the show is over.
The people who work there probably don't know where to exit the stage either.
I knew where to exit the stage.
What, Brian, was it that there was like an arrow of tape that pointed to the exact one? I think I've seen that before.
I think that those arrows were from the backstage area, but I don't know if they were actually on the stage pointing away from it. I don't recall because I was never allowed to be on stage.
That's true. Well, you mentioned Weird Al before, and he played there pretty much every summer. And he is one of the most complex live shows you'll ever see.
Yep.
He does. There's a
I saw him with an orchestra.
Oh,
with strings attached.
Well, for that tour, I should ask you, Scott, did he run off the stage every 2-3 songs to do a costume change?
He did. He was actually it wasn't really his costuming. He did some changes, but it wasn't like when I saw him in Ann Arbor in, I believe it was 1999, and he really went all out. This was more of just like showcasing the symphony, but there were some costumes, but it wasn't as wild. I know that the wild Weird Al, but that show at the symphony was epic. Weird Al, you could say whatever you want. He puts on a hell of a show, and his band has been the same since the 80s.
A consummate performer.
Exactly.
He's got perfect pitch. The band is sick. It's great. And hearing it with a symphony is pretty unique.
But he has to do that run up the ramp at Westbury every 2 to 3 songs.
And he does it.
That sprint, because it's literally a sprint, because he's like, okay, this next video package is 90 seconds. I have 90 seconds to run, get this costume on, take a sip of water, get back to the stage and not be panting out of breath.
The fat suit, like that giant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a spoiler alert. But Neil, have you ever seen Weird Al live, or if we just left you out, we froze you out?
Let's see. Weird Al. I have not actually. I haven't seen him live.
There's only one right answer, and you got it wrong. You should see Weird Al live.
Yes, and
I mean, who doesn't love Weird Al though? I mean, classic.
you really don't love him, Neil, if you haven't seen him. Okay, I don't love the Beatles.
Fine.
There are a lot of people who try and push that. Oh, I don't love the Beatles. A friend of a friend.
I was saying that because I've never seen him because I'm young.
Well,
Right.
A friend who used to work for Ryan Adams used to say how Ryan Adams would openly go, I don't like the Beatles. And he was trying to push that kind of thing.
Well, he was foreshadowing his cancellation.
That just made it easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so. So with Westbury Music Fair, Scott, you said one show. Neil,
But I want Neil to hear this. I saw Scofflaws and Real Big Fish in the Sam Ash parking lot in Westbury.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. It was called, I mean, I'm never gonna lie on the Paltrocast. It was called Scalloween, and it was amazing.
Oh my God.
was it hosted by Jay Wolf?
I don't know, but we basically it was sold out because like it wasn't like a Ticketmaster type show. So we got there and we were like, we drove all the way from Montauk. We didn't drive from Montauk. They're like, oh, okay. So they gave us backstage passes, which as a 17-year-old kid trying to impress a few girls in my grade, it was pretty clutch.
I'll say. So I was looking to take this away from the shaming of how few shows you've seen at Westbury.
You can shame me. It's fine. I don't live on Long Island anymore.
As music industry professionals, probably have seen the whole Westbury roster over the years cumulatively, wherever you are in Los Angeles. When you're on the road, you probably have seen Judy Collins, and you probably did see Joan Rivers with Tony Danza at some point. Yes, and?
I would see that tomorrow if I could.
I mean, that sounds more like the Catskills.
Well, Catskills on Broadway played there every summer at Westbury.
There you go.
I mean,
Kutcher's comes to Westbury.
Exactly.
Kutcher's. Oh, wow.
Well, there is another venue in Westbury.
Wait, did Ron Dagon ever play Westbury?
I don't know.
He went to every single sleepaway camp and just played stuff. Like, and then there was the dude who Steve Marks or Max, where he put a chair on his face and kids would sit on it. Those guys should play Westbury.
Carrot Top?
We talked about Carrot Top before. Let it go.
Yeah. Never. But yeah, I've seen at the Space also, which is
Westbury.
I thought originally, it's funny, I bought tickets of all shows of Dean Ween of Ween plays as a Billy Joel cover band occasionally. He tours with a full band playing Billy Joel songs. Dean Ween is Billy Joel. And we thought with my girlfriend, we bought tickets because I love Billy Joel. She hates Billy Joel, but we were getting to know each other and she had to know I'm from Long Island. So it's pretty much immersion therapy. So we got tickets for this and we thought it was at Westbury Music Fair. So we went there and we went down that gigantic slope or whatever ramp to get to the parking lot. And it was empty. I walked up there and there was no one there. So we had to zoom back up and we went to the Space and it's a pretty cool venue.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I like Westbury Music Fair better because the Space is more kind of like what Scott was describing earlier, like Irving Plaza, where it's like a citadel sort of. But it was a pretty good show. If you ever get to see, I don't know if it's Dean or Gene Ween, actually. Not a big Ween fan, but
Dean Ween, yeah.
I think it's Dean, right?
Yeah. But
I mean, that's hilarious. I did not know that.
And he's good. He really performs.
Yes. I mean, musician.
In a t-shirt and sweatpants, but he performs.
Whatever, man.
Well, another interesting thing to me about both Westbury Music Fair and the Space at Westbury is they both have had to put on non-concert, non-comedy events, whether it was someone was renting it out or something. For example, there's been professional wrestling at Westbury Music Fair, and there's been MMA at the Space. I saw MMA at the Space I didn't see wrestling at the music fair. I know none of you have had, but
Well, Westbury Music Fair on Saturday mornings, I don't know if they still do this. They used to do children's plays, like fairy tale plays. On Saturdays at like 10 a.m., they would have Cinderella, or they would have Grimm's Fairy Tales, and they would have theater troops pretty much rented out for like a 1 hour play for parents to take their kids for like $10 a ticket.
I stand corrected. I saw Robert Goulet and Camelot, I believe,
Amazing.
at Westbury Music Fair.
Wow.
Amazing. That beats
Yeah.
George Carlin and Queensryche.
I mean, what doesn't it beat?
True, exactly.
I mean, you have a Phish show and you're like, yeah, that's better than Phish.
Robert Goulet, correct me if I'm wrong here, theme song to Jimmy Kimmel Live all these years later?
I'm not going to correct you because I don't know. I'll Google it.
I think it's still him all these years later.
Robert Goulet. Jimmy Kimmel, you said?
Yeah.
He recorded the theme song for Jimmy Kimmel in 2003. And I believe that's when the show started. So that's technically a fun fact.
Yeah, so that might be the most played thing he ever recorded. The Jimmy Kimmel Live theme song.
Hey, CC.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to bring it all down with a Robert Goulet discussion.
You didn't bring the mood down. You brought the gumption.
That's a big word. That's an SAT word right there.
I will say the worst concert I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've seen hundreds, if not well over 1,000, was at Westbury Music Fair, and I was getting paid to be there. And it was Air Supply at Westbury Music Fair was so awful that people were getting up and leaving during their sets. And one guy even came up to me because I was wearing a crew shirt, and he said, "Hey, tell management not to bring these guys back next year." It was a real turnabout.
What was so bad? Was it just the sound?
No, it was nothing from the sound, like a technical standpoint. I think they had just come out with a new album, and they were playing all the songs off their new album. And there is one part where I think they were trying to go maybe psychedelic, or they were trying to, I don't know, improvise. And all I remember was the lead singer was saying, "We're going to take you all on a journey."
Oh.
It was like Jazz Odyssey from Spinal Tap, but it was Air Supply and not funny. And people were getting up and walking out during the set. And who it was my job to be there, even I realized this is horrible. Like, and I didn't pay for a ticket. It was just.
But you still demanded your money back after you left.
Yeah, this is overtime. This is hazard pay.
Westbury Music Fair Supply.
Whoa, I see what you did there, Scott. But
shake your head, Neil. That's right.
That same
summer, your dad?
You know what? I haven't been a dad as long as you. It's new. Get off my butt.
But that same summer that you suffered through that, Brian, I saw my favorite Westbury show that I think I ever saw, which you worked the backstage of, which was David Lee Roth.
David Lee Roth, of course. Ooh. That was one of the loudest concerts I've ever seen.
And putting you on the spot here, didn't you have a backstage interaction with Diamond Dave?
I don't think it was with him.
You would know if it was with him.
Did I?
I thought it was something where he was asking you how a coffee machine works.
Oh yes, yeah. He was. I don't know if this is a PG rated podcast.
I accidentally said a curse last time, and I feel bad, so I've been trying.
I'll censor.
It was an accident.
Right. I'll pretend I'm talking to my students. So he was trying. I think we had an espresso machine or a cappuccino or just an overall coffee machine where you had to push the button of which type of coffee drink you wanted, and he couldn't get it to work. He was like pulling on a lever or trying to put in change, and he went, "How do you work this bleeping thing?" Was that the story? It was years ago. This was decades ago now. Right? Yes. How do you work this thing? It was something.
Might as well jump.
Might as well jump on the coffee machine.
Yes.
I see what you did there. And the funny thing to me about that Westbury show is it looked like he was doing a costume change every few songs, but it's just they were changing the tints on the lighting. Like the sleeves are like, oh, he's wearing a yellow jumpsuit. Oh, it's a green jumpsuit. I don't know if that's because he couldn't go back and change at Westbury because, he didn't want to come on and off so many times, but Westbury.
Shout out to the lighting dude.
Exactly.
I thought that show it sounded like he brought audio equipment like PA for Giant Stadium. It was so loud at that show. And it was playing to like a 2,500 person theater in the round. He was jumping though. He could kick.
He was doing all the kicks. He did a sword demonstration in the middle of the show. A couple nights later, he hit himself in the nose with a sword in the middle of the thing and caused a massive nosebleed, but not at Westbury, thankfully. Did you ever, aside from Todd Rundgren falling, I don't think I've seen anything catastrophic at Westbury. Have you, Brian?
Aside from that Air Supply show?
Oh, okay, fair. You were taking on a journey. I get it.
I wasn't. I wasn't part of that.
Okay.
But I don't think I've seen anything quite catastrophic. I mean, the Gallagher set was pretty bad, but no, I couldn't say anything that was like terrible. No, I don't have any good stories there. I have a good story about the news. I have a good story about Ringo, but nothing catastrophic.
Oh, well, can't always be positive. Neil, if Westbury's not your favorite Long Island venue, do you have a favorite one of all time?
I would have to say, I mean, just because of the history, I mean, the downtown, it's got to be. I mean, I literally feel like I spent like a lifetime there, either performing or just being, hanging out there. It was like, it's like Farmingdale, downtown Farmingdale.
It wasn't the Crazy Donkey. It was the other venue. It was another two venues.
The Crazy Donkey. Oh, that's probably a distant third.
There you go, Scott. And had you left Long Island before the downtown happened, or is that while
it started happening, I believe, in maybe the early 2000s. Like I said last time, I was at the Vanderbilt. I would play at Ground Zero a lot in your hood, and they might have changed their name after 9/11 as well, but I played there. Jones Beach was obviously huge at that time, but Deja One was my favorite place to see shows.
Deja One, wasn't it just really a catering hall that evolved?
Like a VFW. It might have been like a VFW place. Like I feel that like a members only type place, but the ska scene, the hardcore scene, a lot of bands like System of a Down, like we said, even played there. So it was a great spot, and they always had great shows on Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, which is good for people living with their parents.
Exactly.
Was Ground Zero a coffee house? Was it Merrick or Belmore?
It was Belmore. It was across the street from a motorcycle store. I believe it was Newbridge Road. Yep. And I played there a number of times, and a lot of bands, like a lot of like the post-hardcore emo type bands got their start there, the Long Island bands. So
some famous bands played there in their early days. Newfound Glory, I think, played with Midtown, the show at Ground Zero.
I bet every band on Drive-Thru before Drive-Thru really popped off played at Ground Zero, like guaranteed. And a lot of bands that were like precursors to like Taking Back Sunday and Glassjaw, because I remember We Are Groove Animals, the very first show we played with this band called Inside, who had Eddie Reyes, who ended up forming Taking Back Sunday and all that stuff. So it was a really good venue. It was literally a bar, but they didn't really care about kids going in. It was a very friendly bar.
Yeah. It was next to a laundromat, a pizza place. I remember.
What more do you need?
Sounds like Long Island. Where's the nail place right there?
Where's the diner?
Where's the diner? Exactly.
There were diners nearby. And Scott, didn't Napalm Death play at Ground Zero?
If they did, they might have exploded it.
Oh,
I'm sure they did, honestly, because they did have some really heavy music there, a lot.
And so, Brian, with venues, I know you've seen a lot of shows at Jones Beach besides Westbury. Would you say Jones Beach is your favorite Long Island venue of all time?
I don't know. It honestly, maybe all things considered, like all else being equal, it may be Westbury Music Fair, just because Jones Beach, they restricted alcohol sales for almost a decade there for no good reason. I also think since
What do you mean
Jones Beach,
restricted? Like a
they
limit
wouldn't
on it,
allow
or
them. Well, they wouldn't allow it. But even
Really?
worse, hold on, even worse, they wouldn't sell alcohol like beer or mixed drinks unless you were in the VIP section.
Yeah, that's
So
the
it,
worst.
it became a class war.
that's
It- it-
classist.
So
I love it.
terrible.
So that has a strike against it. The second thing about Jones Beach is that when they added that the mezzanine, which is now, it's, as far as most people know, it's been there forever, but there was quite a while when it wasn't. And not only is that so far away from the stage that it's hard to hear, but it also blocked off the view and the sound for anyone who had seats under the mezzanine now. So it ruined twice as many seats as it has. And on a bad night, on a windy or rainy night, Jones Beach is the worst. So I have a
Yeah.
lot of love in my heart, nostalgia for Jones Beach. I've seen Phish there, big surprise. I've also seen Jethro Tull with Emerson, Lake and Palmer with my dad, killer show. But from an objective standpoint, it has a lot working against it. The Nassau Coliseum, similarly, I have a lot of nostalgia for, but also it has the grossest amenity concourse, and the amenities are just awful. The Nassau Coliseum, when I saw the Who in
I saw, wait,
1990,
Quadrophenia?
yes, in 1996,
That was my first concert ever.
It was
What?
incredible.
Yeah,
Really?
at Nassau Coliseum.
Yep.
Who
It was also
Quadrophenia.
the first time I saw a grown man urinate into a sink.
That was my
because-
dad. No, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
but it was because the lines coming, there's one exit and one entrance into the bathroom of a venue suited for 15,000 people. And so-
Quadropenia.
Quadropenia. So the Coliseum has
Jesus.
some strikes against it. Like I said, all things considered, all else being equal, Westbury Music Fair might be the best venue there is on the island. It just might be.
I'm with you. I've seen great things at the Paramount. Neil was talking about the downtown,
Oh, right, the Paramount.
the Vanderbilt had
Paramount,
its moment.
Scotty D's Urban Joe Cafe in Rockville
That's now a
Center.
Thai restaurant.
Oh, I've been there. Yeah.
Don't forget about the Patchogue Theater, guys.
Yeah, I saw Norm Macdonald do a book signing there about 3 years ago at the Patchogue Theater.
That
It
place
still
is
exists.
terrible. I'll played one show there, never again.
Wasn't there also, I feel like it was in northern Nassau County, like maybe even Mineola, like a Unitarian church that put
Yes.
on venues as well. Like
Yes.
very like scene, like On the Might of Princess type bands played there and all that, I feel.
I saw one show there that was supposed to be an all-day thing where the headliner was Newfound Glory, but it had Ultimate Fake Book, like a lot of those emo pop punk bands at the time. But then there was a big show I saw there where the opening act was Taking Back Sunday, announcing that they just got signed and are about to start recording their album that weekend with Brand New and Alkaline Trio. I'm going to
Big
say
show.
those shows there for like 2 years.
That's a good one.
It was another Christian McKnight spot.
The one I saw was Edna's Goldfish, I believe, was headlining. It was like kind of like a ska fest, but I think On the Might of Princess played, like Step Lively, like bands like that. It was always weird going to see venues at a church, but yeah.
Yeah, it happens, but I think ultimately there's going to have to be a part 2 on Westbury Music Fair, but there's going to have to be a part 1 on the downtown. So hopefully,
Oh yeah.
some
Or
of you,
Deja
I'm all
One,
about
man.
that. I'm there.
Deja One.
or Deja One. I think the bottom line is we haven't even scratched the surface with Long Island venues that have been amazing, but maybe a little forgotten over the years. So I can't thank all of you enough for your time here. Can you all, Neil first, give the best way to find you online, the best social media channel and or website?
Insane at Insaney on Instagram and Insaney9. Sorry, geez. As you know, I'm a management company with my good friend Matthew Reich, whose son turned 1 today, by the way. Happy birthday, Braden.
Happy birthday.
Artistforartist.com. Check it out. And yeah, that's it.
Brian?
You could find my podcast and contact me at on Twitter at attendance bias, all one word, and on Instagram at attendance bias _ podcast. It's and for anyone who's into Phish, anyone who's into live music, or anyone who just wants to hear people tell stories about concerts that they've been to. You could find Attendance Bias, the podcast, at all outlets. Anywhere you find podcasts, just search Attendance Bias and you'll find your way there.
Great. Scott, last but definitely not least here.
No, I'll take least. It's fine. I have a management company just like Neil. It's called Waldman Management. You could check that out at waldmgmt.com. And if you want to listen to Waldman's Words, which both Neil and Mr. Darren have been on, and Brian, if you're doing something behind the scenes like you're doing with the podcast, if you want to be on, I know a guy. You can get my information from Darren. If you want to have me on a Phish show, I don't recommend it because I'm not a fan. So
that might even be better.
Oh, then have me on. I'd love to. I'll tell you my opinion. But basically, the radio show is called Waldman's Words. You could find that on any DSP and on Tuesday nights live on Adobe Radio, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. your time Eastern. And again, Natasha, you need more love. Thank you, Natasha, for listening to this. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much to Natasha and the Long Beach Public Library for making this happen. And for the record, when Scott is saying DSP, he's not talking about Darren Scott Paltrowitz. He's talking about digital service providers such as iTunes, Spotify, etc. So thank you all for doing this. Thanks to everybody for listening to this, and just looking forward to doing the next one of these with some/all of you.
Excellent. Thanks for having me, Darren.
Thank
you.